Welcome to Business Influencers. Hope everyone is having a great week. My name is Chris Salem, host of Business Influencers. We want to thank you, listeners, each and every week joining us here at TALRadio and making Business Influencers what it is today. This show is started back in October of 2021, and in a short period of time, we've grown to significant listenership, and it's because of you. Each and every week, we want to come back with subject matter experts sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate your level of influence to the next level and help scale your business to those desired objectives important to you. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types, chance to rekindle old relationships, perhaps meet new people. This is a membership program, but it takes all the noise out of social media, allowing you to come in at any time to form genuine and authentic relationships with others, sharing all types of content within reason, and an opportunity to, forge better relationships. And you may land your next great job opportunity or perhaps a future business partnership from it. Feel free to check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about finding humanity in business. And this is someone I know personally. We're both from Connecticut, even though she is down in South Carolina. We're going to be here with Heather Hansen O'Neill, who is an international keynote speaker, behavioral expert, author of Find Your Fire, Teams on Fire, co-author of the new Amazon bestseller, Where's the Office? Moving Today's Leaders from What Is to What Can Be. I love that. And you're going to get a little bit more where you can get your hands on that book later. Heather is also a two-time TEDx speaker, host of the popular podcast From Fear to Fire, and is the creator of L/Focus, Leadership for Our Children's Ultimate Success. She stimulates vibrant energy, focus, and action for those that want to collaborate effectively, lead, change, and achieve massive results in their business. Now, I could keep going on, but without further ado, we welcome Heather Hansen O'Neill to the show. Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Chris. I'm so excited. Every time I get the opportunity to talk with you, I'm like,
Well, I am so excited about this topic, and there is no better person to discuss this than you. You've been speaking in this particular area for many, many years. And, when you think about everything that's happened, since this COVID epidemic that we went through, to some people, and then you had the Great Resignation, all those things that happened. People began to start to sense now, there's more to life than just, work. We got to look at, the humanity side of things. What, from your perspective and your experience and research into this area, since you work with you business leaders and organizations in the space, where do you see humanity in business? Where was it? Where is it now? And where is it heading?
oh my goodness. Okay, so do we have 6 hours or is it a 30 minute? Okay.
Well, we'll do the macro view today, and then we'll get into the micro.
Exactly. I'll be brief. So there has been a lot that has changed. Now, you mentioned that I've been doing this for some time. I have been, but it's called something different now because people are more open to it. So I have been bringing this element of deeper connections, the personal relationships, the fostering and engaging our employees and really cultivating excellent customer service for years. But now there's this element of why. Why are we doing this? And why is it even more important now than ever before? And I found this out because kind of, accidentally. So I was doing a personal project in seeking humanity. I'm weird that way. So my personal projects are things like, I'm going to go out and seek humanity. Okay. So that gives you a little background on who I am. So I went looking for a little bit more about purpose and about, meaning, because I was going through a difficult time in my life, right? My mom was coming to her end of life. I was very surprised by the turn of events with that, everything going on with COVID. It was just, it was a time where I needed some connection and meaning. So I went out seeking humanity. And you know what happens, Chris, when you go to seek, what do? You find, right? And I found example after example of people doing amazing things, of random acts of kindness, of businesses, the businesses that took the time to really communicate what was going on. And even if they didn't have the answers, to let their people know, you know what, I don't know what's coming, but I do know what we're going to do today. And those types of taking the people element into consideration, I call it human centric, and we're people powered, and we have to remember that. And so often, the companies that weren't doing well through the pandemic were the ones that were like, oh, I have to wait to communicate until I have all the information. Did anyone ever do we yet have all the information? No. So we need to communicate transparently as leaders. And so, long story short, because we don't have 6 hours, what I found was that this is the topic that most resonated with people. Because there was this element of isolation and loneliness, people were craving this deeper connection. They were craving more communication. They were craving this feeling of that they're not alone and that we're in this together. And so that's how I ended up diving deeper with my behavioral background and working with some other researchers on, is there a correlation for businesses that are purpose-driven, that see that what their responsibility is beyond profit, that these types of companies that take care of their people, they take care of their customers, we're seeing that there's a correlation to profitability. And so that's why companies now are getting excited. Yeah, it's cool that we're easing some of the isolation, but what they kind of want to know is, oh, it also contributes to my bottom line. This is very interesting.
I love that, what you just said. And a lot of companies, that's what perks them up when you talk about bottom line. But now it's connecting the dots. That's always the challenge, with getting companies to understand. What do you feel like, as you see companies starting to wake up in this area and recognizing that, taking care of their own people is very important, the whole well-being factor, and what you talked about, humanity, where would you say, to help them to see, Heather, like to connect the dots, to see in the long run how this is going to impact their bottom line in such a positive way, even if they put KPIs to put into place to measure it?
So, you actually started talking about it, Chris. When we started the show, you were talking about this, this element of the employees, the quiet quitting, the resistance to working, the kind of they're looking at what do I really want from my life? And so we need to look at those first as employers, right? We need to look at our people and to recognize that what is the biggest challenge that we have right now? It's attracting and retaining top people. This is one of the biggest issues that is across the board, engaging the people that we have, right? And so when you come at this whole element of employee engagement from a sense of humanity, you start asking questions. You start not just asking for feedback, but actually listening and taking action on that feedback, recognizing that even though we may not want to say, oh, work isn't home, we don't have to think about the well-being, but yes, we are whole people, and it is more important than ever for people to have a place that they can go to that actually cares about them as holistic beings, right? That they're not coming to get stressed out and to cause more angst and frustration in their lives. It's to come and actually find solutions and people that they can connect with. And so when you do that, when you realize that you want to attract the best people, you want to retain them, you want to engage them, and this is the way to do it. This is what people want. It's a no-brainer, and that's just one element of what we're talking about with business. Even didn't get me started on the customer relationships.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and think about the retention. I mean, retention, that's always a big issue in companies, regardless of size.
We spend so much money getting new people. We have to go out, we have to recruit people, we have to find them, we have to train them. We put all this money into that. We're not going to take a little time to make sure that they want to stay, that the culture is a culture that draws them, that gets them excited. No, that's important.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said, like, when you can take care of your own people and put the humanity factor first, and now they feel included, they feel heard. They sense that you look out after their personal well-being as well in some capacity. Well, how could that not lend itself to a better experience with customers when people are doing what they have to do within, and as they complement each other, how that expands outward? It's so true what you just said, and it's so exciting. I just wish that more and more companies can really get a grasp on that, and that's where people like yourself are out there speaking on this at leading industry events. What would be the first thing that you would recommend if it's an HR person listening, or a business unit leader, or a CEO of a company that is listening or will be listening to this show? What would be that first step that you would say when it comes to recognizing the importance of putting humanity first in business?
Well, I guess the first part is the awareness of what's currently going on. And you speak to this too, actually, Chris. I know that you do. Recognizing where we are is important in order to figure out where, and to open our minds to what's possible of where we want to go so that we can find the gap. We've had conversations about this.
Yeah.
So becoming aware of what's really going on in the organization. It might mean, getting your head out of the computer and walking around and asking questions and taking surveys of our customers, of our employees, and figuring that out. And if you see that there's some angst, if there's some feelings about the company that you're like, "Ooh, I didn't know that," then there are assessments that I help organizations with. When you go in, first thing you want to do is take a pulse. You want to take a temperature check of where their people are, so that you can see where the best place is to begin. It's as simple as if you're at a stoplight, right? The red, yellow, green, if you have the right assessment in place, you can just look quickly at, okay, we have two areas that are red areas. This is across the board. We're experiencing pain. We're experiencing challenge in these areas. So we have to start there. And then we know, okay, yellow is our next area. Green, we're good there. We're good. We want to keep an eye on it, but we really need to focus on those red areas. And there's a specific assessment that I do when I go into an organization. And that's important. We need to find out, have conversations with our customers too. When we start to treat our people right, yes, they're going to naturally treat the customers right. But there are systems that you put in place. There are tools that you can use. There's a whole plethora of things that you can share in a training that is open and communicative, that will help elevate the service. And Chris, did you know that if a customer finds out that a company is purpose-driven, meaning that they care about causes in the community, they give back to things that they care about, not only are they drawn to the better service, but if they know that an organization cares about something beyond them, they're 4.5 times more likely to refer them to somebody else. That's big.
That's very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'd always placed it. I like that, give without expectation, receive without resistance. And so true, integrity, which is a great value to have.
It sure is. And you and I, we know we love spending time with like-minded individuals.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. And Heather, would you say that, with the humanity thing, awareness is very important, which, you do quite a bit of, through your, you do a lot on LinkedIn, and you do a lot with your podcast. You're out there speaking, doing keynotes. Mm-hmm. What would you say that, again, to get people to really, really buy in and solidify? Would it be again, like, doing, like a maybe an awareness session, a training, something, so people, because you can't force somebody to do what they're not going to do. But if we can drip it in a way that gets them to now say, hey, that's a better way than what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's an effective strategy to help companies really start to steer them towards this area?
Yes. And I love the way that you asked that, Chris, because you obviously you know what I want to say right here, and what's most important, because you work with these companies too. So, I could go in and I could do one part of what I do, right? And I could do a keynote, and it would get people, I guarantee it would get people excited. It would get them more awareness as to what's possible, get them thinking, and then maybe take a couple of actions when they go back into the office, right? Okay, what are those one or two things that are priority items that I took away, ideas that I can take action on? That's awesome. But the dripping, you use the term dripping, because when you look at, we're looking at our people holistically, but when you look at the organization holistically, your results will catapult when you tie it all together. When you get the buy-in from leadership, right? That they are walking their talk. They believe in this. They're doing it. That's key. You come in and you present the ideas, maybe company-wide, in something like a keynote. And then there's this element of reinforcement. You could do it through the leadership. You can do it. I have some online things that enable people to be able to go back to and get coaching, group coaching, different ways that we can talk through specifics as things come up. Because, we have the best of intentions, but we're human beings. And so time happens, clients come in with issues, families happen. These things can sometimes creep in. And even if you have the best of intentions, keep us from taking the actions that we know are going to be right actions. So that's why the reinforcement is so important, to be able to have a place where you can go to get the inspiration, to get the tools, to get the techniques, and to have a community.
Good. No, you're so true there, Heather. And it's so important. What do you feel like based upon what you're seeing right now, are there any particular industries that are adapting sooner than later? Or is it just, it doesn't matter what industry? Sometimes I could sometimes see signs of certain industries, not in this particular area, but could be other areas where they tend to get it a little bit more than others. Not to say we want to, but do you see any other industries that are really seeing the importance of the humanity side first?
Well, it's interesting. There's two parts of this. The first part is that there are certain industries that get it. They're always innovating. They're always understanding that change is the norm, and that they have to be looking to the future and constantly be trying new things, and that taking those risks and trying things, well, not all of them will work. That's what's actually going to move you forward, the lessons that you learn from it. So there are companies and industries that are naturally more inclined toward the innovation than ones that are like, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way that it's worked. And we've tried that and it didn't work in the past. So we're not going to do that ever again. So I'm not going to call it names there with those areas.
Yeah.
But in particular, with what's gone on the last couple of years, there's two areas. There's the organizations that did well were the ones that said, okay, what can I learn from this right away? They didn't hide under the covers. They're like, who's got the information? What can I learn from this? How can I engage my people? Because I know people are important. These are, maybe tech companies, financial services companies, some of the manufacturing companies, healthcare, obviously. There's a lot of organizations like that are kind of doing this. They're doing this already.
Yeah.
They recognize it and they're constantly doing it, right? But then there's also other industries that were hit so hard, right? So hard. Like, let's look at hospitality, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, God,
okay,
yes.
By the way, we can't meet in person anymore. What? Okay. So completely could have annihilated that industry. But underneath, at their core, they are some of the most resilient human beings and organizations that you'd ever want to meet. So the companies sometimes that are hit the hardest are the ones that dig into their passion, their purpose, their why for doing what they're doing, and they figure it out. And they may sometimes claw their way up, but what happens on the other side of that, that pendulum swing, they are booming right now because they stuck with it, right? So there are different industries that are doing well for different reasons.
Yeah, that makes total sense. No, I love what you shared there, and so true. And I love the fact, like humanity. What would be some of the components, Heather, you think that are going to really help drive the message about humanity in business? Like, could there be things around, the leadership, emotional intelligence, well-being? There could be so many different factors. What are some of the key areas that can go into that humanity area to, really bring it full circle for organizations and industries to really adapt it into their day-to-day?
As you were speaking, it strikes me how completely aligned you are with this whole humanity thing, because EQ, which you do a lot on, yes, we need to enhance our emotional intelligence so that we can be able to see beyond ourselves, so that when we're having our conversations with peers, with employees, with customers, that we know what to look for, that we are embracing the diversity of our people, that we're listening to their needs and being able to, like I said, take action on it. So that EQ, super important. People are screaming for flexibility and taking into consideration that well-being. They are done with being burnt out.
Yeah.
Stressed beyond belief, with working 90 hours, never going to their kids' games, which is another area that I know is super important to you. And
I'm absolutely.
Sure, your listeners as well, right, Chris? And
absolutely.
So it's taking everything into consideration, and I keep repeating whole, but it is looking at the whole organization.
It is.
And the whole person. So go ahead. I know there's something that you have a story right now. There's something that's kind of bubbling up.
I mean, think about like people, like, they have lives, and, they're moms, they're dads, they're, and they got things. But when we can put that first, not that people take, but give them that flexibility, but knowing that they still have to honor their commitments, honor their role and duties, but creating that space where they can leverage that and do that without feeling restricted, by doing it a certain way that we've always used to do before. And, sometimes it may not always work with everybody, but for the most part, I just find that works for so many people. And as long as people step up and do what they're supposed to do and don't abuse those privileges, so to speak, that when they're given that leeway. Yeah.
But what's really important with that, Chris, is setting clear expectations.
Yeah.
We make assumptions sometimes. And if we're very clear in our communication, we set clear expectations,
yes.
The buy-in, we get them to understand it, say, yes, I get it. These are the results that you need. Yes, I'm all over that. How can we lay this out? That communication, that clarity is so important. And when you're working together toward a common goal, a mission over a commission, when you're in it together, and everybody's clear, then it's so much easier. It's so much easier.
Yes, absolutely. So true. Yeah. No, I love it. And Heather, I mean, you've shared some great information. I wanted also, like, if you want to talk a little bit, for a few minutes before because we get near the end of the show, and I want to leave a couple minutes for you to let people know how to find you. How about your book? Anything about, you could share like something, like one quick tip from your book. And we love to have the listeners make sure they get a chance to buy your book on Amazon.
Okay, well, thank you. I always love that. So my newest book is Where's the Office, as you mentioned, and that I will tell you is the first of my 3 books that I have a co-author. And I just need to brag on my co-author for a moment. His name is Will Lewis, and when we wrote the book, he was 92, 93. He is currently 94.
Wow.
And amazing. And he actually is talking to me about another idea that he has. So, if anybody comes to me with an excuse about, not being able to do anything because they're too far along in their years, I say baloney.
Absolutely.
So anyway, Where's the Office? There's a lot in it about understanding that, the purpose of the book was to help people and leaders in particular to lead from any environment with everything that was going on. And that involves understanding that you take the office with you if you're leading from within, if you honor the self-leadership that is involved in this new environment, taking responsibility for your actions, understanding, what the different environments look like, how we can set people up for success. So that's all part of it. But you asked for one thing. So within it, one of the tools that we have in there is called Mind Space. And we have had such amazing feedback from this Mind Space tool, which is one of the things that you can use as an individual, with a team, with a company, in a community project, to understand where you are and where you need to go. Super, super effective. So I think that would be the one thing, is to look at this tool from a standpoint of how can I use this to know where do I start and how I can make the biggest jump to get to the results that I want.
Wow. Heather, I know we've only touched the tip of the iceberg with what you share here, and we definitely are going to have you on for a future show to elaborate further into this topic, because it's so important moving forward with the organizations. We're towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure that the listeners have a chance to get to know you, reach out to you. What is the best place they can reach you, and anything that you'd like to present or offer to them?
Okay. Well, 2 things. First of all, Heather Hansen O'Neill will find me just about anywhere on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, my website, Heather Hansen O'Neill, and HANSENONEILL. But what I do want to mention is I'm currently actually working on my 4th book, which has to do more with this humanity element. And I am always in search of amazing stories. So if any of your listeners have a great example of how they have helped their employees or their customers, or that's something that they've witnessed out there in the world, I would love to hear about it and potentially play them up in the book. But in addition to that, I have a gift. So it's a humanity checklist that's just for your listeners. And so I'll make sure to give a link to you to be able to share out to them so that they can download a free checklist of some suggestions of how they can go out and find humanity individually and within their organizations.
Wow, Heather, thank you so much. And we highly encourage everybody that's listening, share this show with someone else. Take advantage of the free offer again for this humanity checklist. It's so important, regardless of the size of your organization, so important moving forward. And again, don't forget, reach out to Heather on LinkedIn or any of the other channels that you can find her. And again, get to know who she is, and definitely someone I highly recommend to speak at your next function and corporation. Heather, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Listeners, we want to thank you each and every week here joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, we are committed each and every week to bringing in subject matter experts like Heather to share their words of wisdom and insights to elevate your level of influence and business success to the next level. If you have any comments for today's show, feel free to reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com, or any ideas for future show content, let us know. We'd be more than happy to look at it. Our team will evaluate, determine the demand for it, and we will make sure we find the right person or assets that will put that content together that we can deliver on a future show. With that being said, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.